So good morning everyone. Good morning po. I'm here to discuss the chapter 3 which is the develop of mortality. Or before I proceed, at the end of the discussion, you're able to answer some questions regarding to my report. So here it goes. There are 6 stages in development in morality, which is the level of instinct, the level of custom, the level of conscience, a comparison of the level of custom and the level of conscience, the historical development of morality. So, the level of instinct. The French philosopher Rousseau held that man was naturally both free and good. The primitive life of man, free from the artificial restriction placed on him by custom and institutions of society, was a life of idyllic peace, harmony, goodwill, and happiness. The English philosopher Hobbes held that natural man seeks only that which pleasant him and is delightful to himself. Every man feels by nature, and he has a right to all things, and is all naturally acquisitive and ferocious. They are bound to be in a state of war with one another. The state of nature is intolerable, no place for the industry, because the fruit thereof is uncertain. No arts, no letters, no society, and which is worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So, pag sinabi daw po nating moral ethics, it refers to the set of standards that enable to live cooperatively in groups. It is what the society determined to be right and acceptable. Sometimes, acting moral manners means individual must sacrifice or kailangan nilang isakripisyo ang kanilang pansariling kaligayahan para mag-benefit ang society. Or ito po yung mga policies, guidelines, at mga patakaran sa isang society. So, number 1 is as I've said, the level of instinct. So, according to the French philosopher Rousseau, ang lalaki daw ay malayang gumalaw sa ating lipunan. Sabi naman ng English philosopher na si Hobbes na ang lalaki ay naghahanap ng magpapaligaya sa kanyang sarili. Ang bawat lalaki ay may pakaramdam na they have the right to all things, or akala nila na kaya na nilang gawin ang lahat ng bagay, o may karapatan na silang gawin ang lahat ng bagay. Sila ay matatapang at mababangis at kaya nilang makipag-away sa isa't isa. Rousseau is a living out certain of the instinctive tendencies which modern psychologists have found in human nature, such as the instinct of pugnacity, self-assertion, and acquisitiveness, while Hobbes is living out others of these tendencies, such as the gregarious instinct, the parental instinct, which soon become attached to other objects than the actual offspring of its owner, and the general innate tendencies to feel sympathy with others, to imitate them, and to accept suggestions from them. It is in the life of lower animals that we find a life nearest to purely instinctive level, and we may admit that in comparison with the life of cultured human society, the life of even the most developed animal group is nasty, brutish, and poor. So, according po ulit kay Rousseau, ang modern psychologists ay natuklasan na ang human nature gaya ng instinct of pugnacity o kabagsikan at may paninindigan sa sarili, while Hobbes is may instinct na mahilig makisama na nagiging sanhi ng mapalapit sa ibang bagay, kaysa sa natural na offspring ng mga katutubo na makaramdam ng simpatya sa iba. Nagayahin sila at hanapin ang suggestions sa kanila. Parang naisip ni Rousseau na merong unconscious harmonizing na makikita sa kauna-unahang lalaki na merong mystical sense ng pagkakaisa sa nature that has been lost both savages and civilized men in modern times. Ito ay tinawag ni Levy na law of participation. It is commonly thought that the conduct of animals as the level of instinct cannot be regarded as right or wrong. It is said to be neither moral nor immoral, but a moral or non-moral conduct to which moral predicates are not really applicable at all. There is no motivation by the judgment often what is right or by the sense of duty as we find them in human beings. Yet, it is reasonable to suppose that in some dim way, the animals regards carrying out of the instinctive impulse is the right thing to do. It is the way, at any rate, that instinctive impulses appear in human beings. The impulse of the instinct reveals itself as an axiomatically obvious propositions of something which is clearly sense that an idea is discussing its basis its weak of foolish. It is the way that it seems obvious to the angry man that he should take revenge on his opponent. From another point of view, at the level of instinct, the influence of outside circumstances seems to predominate over the inner nature of the animal, and there is nothing that we can call choice with sufficient knowledge of animals' inner nature inner nature and of the outside causes affecting it. Complete prediction of its conduct will be possible. We may, at a later stage, look back on such conduct and label it good or bad. We may commend as good the hen's self-sacrifice in defending her chickens from a hawk, and he may condemn as bad the tiger's massacre of bigger animals. But these are the figures of speech borrowed from the latter morality. The conduct of the foal and the tiger is simply natural. To slaughter other animals may appear to the tiger as much the right thing to do as to sacrifice herself for her chickens appear to the modern hen. Sabi daw po dito na it is commonly used na gaya ng mga animals ay may level din sila ng instinct that cannot be regarded na tama at mali. So to simplify, ang example po dito is yung manok na kaya niyang isacrifice ang kanyang sarili para protektahan ang kanyang mga sisiw sa lawin. Hindi na natin kayang hatulan na masama ang ginawa ng tigre dahil pinatay niya yung mga may hinang animals. O ang pag-uugali na ginawa ng ibon at tigre is simply natural. Ang patayan ng ibang hayop ay nagpapakita na tama lang ang ginawa ng tigre gaya ng ginawa ng manok na sinacrifice niya ang kanyang sarili para sa kanyang mga sisiw. So, kailangan daw po nating protektahan yung ating yung po sinasabi dun sa hen na poprotektahan daw po niya yung kanyang mga alagang or ang kanyang mga sisiw para hindi po sila mapahamak. Even at the level of instinct, there must be kind of conduct which are liked by members of the same species as the agent. For example, those actions which are satisfying to the self-assertive instinct of member must be on the species, and there must be other kinds of conduct which are disliked by the members of species and which arouse in them the instinct of repulsion and pugnacity. Westermarck found the origin of moral disapproval in the violation of our self-safe feeling is common incentive to resentment. So, it is certainly reasonable to hold primitive man regard as bad as he dislikes the fact that our moral judgment have their origin in our emotions of resentment would not, however, prove that they are now simply statements that we feel resentment to the conduct we label bad. Such a view will be as absurd as holding the modern science deal with magic because it had its origin in the alchemy of the Middle Ages. So, sabi daw po dito is, tiyak na reasonable ang pinangahawakan ng kauna-unahang lalaki, gaya ng masama at hindi pagkagusto. The fact that our moral judgment ay mayroong pinagmulan ng kanilang emosyon at sama ng loob na ang pinagmulan ng modern science of Middle Ages. The development of conduct in primitive society must at some period or other have taken place in two directions. One is it become more social and cooperative. A single man can do very little either in producing things to satisfy his needs or to protect himself against his enemies. And some of his innate tendencies like the gregarious instinct, the sex instinct, imitativeness, suggestibility, and sympathy already imply the existence of other people and having his relations with them. This leads very soon to some form of division of labor with the different people performing the different function for which they are best suited. In one very simple form of division of labor, we find the man defending the home for its enemies while woman provides the food. So katulad din po kanina ng example ko na dun sa hen na pinoprotektahan po niya yung kanyang mga sisiw para po or baka kukunin ng ibon. So ganito rin po ito it becomes more social and cooperative. Ang isang single man ay kayang gumawa ay kaliligayan ng kanyang sarili para masatisfy o maprotektahan ang kanyang sarili laban sa mga kaaway. In one very simple form of division, makita natin na ang lalaki ay dedepensahan ang kanyang tahanan sa mga kaaway, while ang mga babae naman ay nagpo-provide ng mga pangangailangan. So, kahit naman po saan, ang lalaki daw po talaga yung kailangan magprotekta at magtaguyod ng ating pamilya. The other one is, conduct becomes more rational. As man tends to use his intelligence more and more to satisfying his needs. This is seen in the making of tools, which are simple intelligent contrivances to assist in production. Even for civilized man, the distinction is often a vague one. The end which we set before us are definite goals, like passing examination and making money, are really only proximate ends or means, although we are often vague as to do the end which this man leads. So, ang sabi naman daw po dito is, sa isa ay ang pag-uugali ay nagiging rational. Katulad ng lalaki na may kaugalian na gamitin ang katalinuhan para masatisfy ang kanyang pangangailangan. Ito ay nakikita sa paggawa ng matalinong katha to assist production kahit si sibilisadong lalaki ay may pagkakaiba. Gaya ng kaya daw nilang makapasa sa exam, gumawa ng pera na tinatawag nilang definite goal. It has already been suggested that a society entirely at the level of instinct may never have really existed in the human or in the animal world. What we have been describing are tendencies which must have been at work at some time or another during the early stage of development of human conduct. There must have been at some stage or other feelings of pleasure in certain types of conduct and of displeasure in others. Feelings which may spread rapidly in a group because of its natural tendencies to suggestibility and sympathy, and at times of development must have occurred not equally in all directions but spasmodically unevenly toward rational and more social conduct. It has been suggested na ang society ay ganap na mayroong level of instinct na hindi lamang nag-i-exist sa tao or sa animal world, na hindi natin pinagkumpara noong panahon na nade-develop ang mga tao at noong panahon na ang development ay naganap. Hindi pare-pareho sa lahat ng direction, ngunit pasumpong-sumpong at hindi pantay towards rational and more social conduct. The most highly cultured chimpanzee fall far short of the most primitive of normal savages in ability to use his reason and to engage social activity, and in power to communicate to his fellows, and this imply it is likely that he also falls short his power to direct his conduct consciously. And all and at his very lowest level, man shows a capacity of judging his own behavior does not seem to occur in all animal world. So, ang pinakamababa daw na klase ng lalaki ay nagpapakita ng capacity or kapasidad na husgahan ng kanyang pag-uugali na hindi nangyayari sa animal world. The next is the level of custom. At this stage, man considers to be right those form of conducts which are approved by standards of customary modes of behavior of social groups to which he belongs. At this level, the bad action is the action that is not done, and the good action is the action that has been always done. So, the next po natin is yun na nga pong the level of customs. Dito sa stage na ito, ay kinukonsider na lalaki na tama ang kanilang grupo na sinasamahan. Ang mga masamang gawain ay gawain na hindi pa tapos, at ang mabubuting gawain ay sinasabi nila na always done. The importance of this level is suggested by the effect that it has had our ethical terminology. We now distinguish between customs that are actually practiced by the majority of a society and customs that are approved by the majority, for we realize that the majority was the better and the follows was worse. There can be little doubts that the basis of customary morality is the instinct known as the herd or gregarious instinct, at the innate tendencies of sympathy, imitativeness, and suggestibility which are closely bound up with this instinct. Perhaps they should be regarded rather as expression or development of this instinct than as general innate tendencies in the way they are derived by MacDougall. There is, however, a noteworthy difference between impulse arising from herd instinct and those arising from other instinct. Each other instinct has its own special impulse. The sex instinct impels men to mate, and the flight instinct impels men to run away. The feeling that it is the obvious and necessary thing to do, and to any opinion, the characteristics of a feeling self-evident to the person holding it. Mayroong level of conduct na matatagpuan natin sa parehong history at kauna-unahang komunidad na nag-i-exist ngayon. Ang malalaking lugar ay binibigay para sa mga sibilisadong society, at ang maliliit na komunidad naman ay binibigay para sa mga moral matters. So, ito na nga po yung discuss ko na ano yung level po of conduct. It is also in some sense of moral unit, for a wrong done by a member of the tribe is wrong for which the whole tribe is held responsible, and a wrong done to a member of the tribe is a wrong which its all members must revenge. So, sinasabi daw po dito na ang pagkakamali ng isa sa member ng tribo ay responsibilidad na ng buong tribo, or sa madaling sabi, ang pagkakamali ng isa ay pagkakamali na ng lahat. The place given to a single group or a tribe is primitive society at the customary level may be contrasted with the many groups with which an individual has relations in modern society. The modern man has attached to various groups, to his family, to his business, to his club, to his school or college, to his church, to his state. One of the results of having so many attachments is that no single one of them can have the authority or scope in life of the individual that the primitive tribe had for the primitive man. The group has various ways of maintaining the observance of its custom. Letter A is: there is first of all force of public opinion. Our natural tendencies of sympathy, imitativeness, and suggestibility make us with to do what our neighbors approve. And nothing is more unpleasant to the ordinary man than the feeling that he regarded as a strange being with whom his neighbors will have nothing to do. So sabi daw po dito is, ang mungkahin ng kapitbahay ay wala namang magagawa o maitutulong at hindi kasiya-siya sa isang ordinaryong tao ang pakiramdam na ito. So, hindi raw daw po natin kailangan kunin ang suggestions ng ating mga neighbors dahil wala po silang maitutulong sa atin. Or ito po yung tinatawag na force of public opinion. A familiar support of the custom of a primitive society is taboo. This punishment is often attributed to the activity of the dead ancestor or even the animal ancestor of the tribe, so that it is invest the authority of the group with the feeling of religious that they called numinous state of mind. So, tinatawag daw po nilang tabu ang sumusuporta sa society ng kauna-unahang sumusuporta sa kauna-unahang society. This punishment ay nakaugalian na ginagawa para sa mga namatay na mga ninuno or kahit sa mga sinaunang animals. The authority is often supported by an elaborate religious ritual, and ritual is a most powerful ally of customary morality. This is especially true of the rites of initiation of manhood, where impressive ritual sends to bring home to the youth both the authority of the tribe and importance of observing its custom. We find ritual used in the great occasions of life, birth, marriage, and death, and at other times of special importance, such as the sowing and harvesting of crops, the declaration of war, of buildings of a new house. So iba rin naman dito naman po sa iba is iba rin naman din po yung kanilang paniniwala. Sinabi dito na ang ritual ay ang pinakamakapangyarihang ali or kaugalian ng moralidad. May paniniwala sila na mayroong mga seremonya ng pagsasimula ang bawat tribo gaya ng mga important occasions, gaya ng pagsilang, kasal, pag-aani ng mga palay, at kahit sa pagpapatayo ng bahay. So, meron daw po silang paniniwala, iba't ibang klase ng paniniwala sa pag-uumpisa. Gaya ng pagtatayo ng bahay, o yung iba po is, ang paniniwala nila pag maglilipat ka po ng bahay ay, ang una nyo daw pong dadalhin dun sa bahay is, asukal, bigas, at asin. So, sabi daw po, para daw po, kaya daw po yun ang unang inililipat is para daw po hindi ka tayo mauubusan ng ng asin, ng bigas at ng asukal. So, according lang po yun sa mga paniniwala ng mga tribo. The group is generally prepared to use physical force to compel the recalcitrant individual to observe its custom. At this level of custom, the great step has been taken of having established moral standards, so that individual is no longer always does simple what is right in his own eyes or what appeals to his natural instinct. And these standards have themselves a secondary usefulness in furthering those bonds that bind the group in unified social life. So, and last is, ang level ng kaugalian nito ay malaking hakbang na magkaroon ng matatag na moral standards. ang isang individual para mas tumibay pa ang kanilang grupo. So, next is, another one is the level of conscience. At the level of custom, the authority in the moral life is outside the individual. He must do what is approved by his group. And this level of conscience, the authority is inside. It is inner voice that directs him. And now it is what conscience commands that appears the obvious and proper thing to do. So the advance from the level of custom takes place in three directions. So sabi daw po dito is the level of conscience describe a two thing. One is what a person believes is right at kung paano ang isang tao nagdi-decide kung ano ang tama at mali. More than just the gut instinct, our conscience is a moral muscle. By informing us our values and principles, it becomes the standard we use to judge whether or not our actions are ethical. So number one is the standards of morality are now actively chosen by the individual after the greater or less amount of deliberation. They are no longer accepted passively as an inevitable part of this life in a group. So, sinasabi dito na ang pamantayan ng isang moralidad ngayon ay ang tamang pagpili ng isang individual after ng isang individual, malaki man or maliit na amount ng deliberation. Hindi na sila kabilang at hindi maiwasan na pabilang or mapasama sa grupo. Number 2 is there is a new personal interested in morality. At the top group level of moral standards are more or less unconsciously accepted as part of the moral atmosphere of the society. To which individuals belong. But at the level of conscience, to be good is an individual matter and is something actually thought of a being for the advantage merely of individual himself. So, number 2 is mayroong personal na interes sa morality ang grupo na ito at may level na madami or kakaunti na accepted or tinatanggap sa part ng moral atmosphere na kinabibilangan ng isang individual. At minsan, akala nila ay may advantage ito. So, akala daw po nila is, kahit daw po maliit or malaki yung mga sinasamahan nila, ang iniisip po nila is, may advantage po yung sinasamahan nilang grupo. While other aspect of human welfare becomes matter for the various institutions and groups in developed society, pure morality tends to become the sphere individual alone. The development from the level of custom to the level of conscience may appear to be largely due to historical accidents. So, ito naman po may ibang aspeto ng human welfare ay magiging usapin sa ibang institution at grupo na nade-develop ng isang society. Ang level ng kaugalian nito ay makikita sa pamamagitan ng historical accidents. We have seen how the spread of Christianity aided that individualistic outlook which is fundamental to the level of conscience. Other historical events like the breaking up of the Greek city-states in the 4th century before Christ and the Renaissance of the 14th and 15th centuries, which is rich unfolding of individual human capacities, were powerful aid to such an advice. W.S. Gilbert wrote that every boy and every girl that born into the world alive is either a little liberal or else a little conservative. He might have said equally truly that each new child is both liberal and conservative at the same time. Each has the tendency both to go forward to unknown and to remain in the way of the past. So nakita natin kung paano nagpalaganap ang Christianity sa individual na pananaw ng fundamental level of conscience. Marami pang makasaysayan ang nangyari sa Greek city noong 4 na century before Christ at ang muling pagsilang noong 40th and 50th century. Sabi ni W.S. Gilbert, na ang ibig sabihin nung pahayag niya is ang parehas liberal at conservative ang bagong panganak na bata. Ang isa sa kanila ay may tendency na hindi kilala o manatili sa nakaraan. So the other one is the level of custom and the level of conscience. Morality today is the most part of the world's largely in a matter of custom, with individuals reflecting on moral matters and under the guidance of conscience refusing to accept the cost of their country, class, or set. It is social gain that the most men should accept the standards of their group without question. If everybody are constantly asking questions about the rightness and wrongness of the ways of society, there will be a lack of stability in the morals of a community, and the young would have a little chance of learning, almost unconsciously, the moral traditions of their race. Many of the moral standards that prevail at the level of custom must have originated in the reflection of some individuals in the past. So, ang morality ay may malaking part na nagre-reflect sa isang moral matter ng bansa. Kailangan tanggapin sa lipunan ang standard ng grupo without question. So, kailangan daw po nilang tanggapin yung standards na hindi daw po kailangang pa silang tanungin. Kung ang bawat isa ay may tuloy-tuloy na pagtatanong tungkol sa mga tama at mali sa society, magiging kulang ang stability ng moral sa community at ang mga kabataan ay magkakaroon ng maliit na pag-asa na matuto sa kanilang tradisyon ng kanilang lahi. Reflective morality, as it is found at the level of conscience, and conventional morality at it is found at the level of custom, differ in the following. Number 1 is the level of custom. What is done and what is not done may not be what would call moral matters at all. To be wrong in the one is the same kind of wrongness, and to be wrong in the other, both must equally done by the members of the tribe. Ang level ng kaugalian nito ay nagawa na at hindi pa nagagawa ay hindi matatawag na moral matters. Ang pagkakamali ng isa ay parehas lang ng pagkakamali na nagawa ng iba, pero parehas lang na nagawa sa ibang member ng tribo. The level of custom, the business of the individual is to observe and to follow the habits of others. At this level, it may even be disadvantage to morality for him to observe too closely and attentively, for the individual is more likely to enter into the moral outlook of this group if the natural tendencies of sympathy are allowed a free and half-conscious play with the interference of deliberate attention, which may lead to critical reflection. So sabi naman daw po dito is ang level ng kaugalian na ito sa business ng individual ay kailangang obserbahan at sumunod sa kaugalian ng iba. At the level of custom, there is no room for progress development. The reformer and the delinquent are both to be put in the same class. The present day, for example, both are likely to be labeled or revolutionaries of the other groups. Indeed, tribal wars which have taken men to see the way of other civilizations are powerful influences in arousing men's mind from the level of custom so to that conscience. The raising to the level of conscience opened the door for a change. This change need not always to be better, but at least progress is now possible. Ang level daw po ng kaugalian ay walang puwang para sa mga progress ng development. There's a chance na magbago at magkaroon ng puwang para sa mga pagbabago na kinakailangan sa ikagaganda ng proseso. Number 4, at the level of custom, the group is satisfied if the individual outwardly observe its custom. It is to be remembered indeed that there are customs of speaking as well as of doing, and is necessary to say right things as well as to so as to sow the right thing. In this direction, morality has received much aid from the development of more personal and spiritual religion, which is belief that man look on the outward appearance, but the Lord look at the heart on the heart. Ang level ng kaugalian ng grupo ay satisfied sa individual na panlabas na nag-oobserba ng custom. Ito ay maaalala lang sa pagsasalita at paggawa ng mga mabubuting bagay. Ito ay nagpapakita ng pagbabago sa personal na paniniwala na hindi lamang makita sa panlabas na katangian, bagkus makikita ito sa kabutihan ng puso. Next is the level of custom tends to maintain morality at rather a dead level throughout the community. Painful punishment prevent any individual from sinking much below that level, but there is a little encouragement and times even some danger for the individual who aspires to rise much above the average level of his fellows. They realize that a customary morality is more likely to keep the devil doer from wrong than the leading of his own undeveloped or prevented conscience. Ang level ng kaugalian nito ay mananatili sa morality kaysa sa kabuuan ng community. And the last is, in a similar way, customary morality cannot adapt itself to the special needs of each individual. In some respect, this is gain, for it ensures that the established rules of morality cannot be upset by the self-interest or prejudice in a particular individual. It has been a characteristics of the morality of the moral best men that they have and the insight to do such unique acts. There's a safety and stability about custom morality, even though it does not admit of the attainment of such height of goodness, and as morality directed by individual conscience, and there appears to be a place for both custom and reflection in ideal community. So ang sabi daw po dito is ang kaugalian hindi nakukuha sa sariling pangangailangan ng individual. Ito hindi magagawa ng pansariling kagustuhan lamang. Ito ay makikita sa lugar kung saan may custom reflection ang isang ideal community. So the last is the historical development of morality. A survey of social history, as it is known to use, the show that on the whole, in spite other periods of sinking into merely customary ways, there has actually been a development from the level of custom in the direction of the level of conscience. Historically, there have been a certain moral gains as part of this development from customary to reflecting morality. Number one is, the moral judgment has tended to deal with the inner causes of action rather than the outward conduct. You find it historically in the new attitude to the criminal and particularly to the young delinquent, where an attempt is now made to discover the mental history behind the crime or in the use of confession in the progress of religion. So, the moral judgment ay may kakayahan na makapag-deal sa mga panloob at panlabas na sanhi ng action rather than the outward conduct. Makikita natin ito sa historical na ugali ng mga kriminal tulad ng kabataan na delinkwente na ginagawa at ay na ang ginagawa ay tuklasin ang mga mental history behind the crime. There are of the moral life has been enlarged. It is a tribal life. Moral duties were almost all within the tribe, and such obligation as there were to the strange were religious and magical rather than moral. A great many people now feel that they have some duties to the animal world, at least the obligation that cause animals useless and unnecessary pain, and this seems a moral advance in the life in the last few centuries about which there can be doubt. So sabi daw po dito is Ang level ng conscience ay nagdi-describe sa dalawang bagay. So, ang sabi daw po dito is, ang bawat tribes ay may duties na nabantayan ng animal world na hindi magiging sanhi na masaktan ang mga hayop sa nasabing community. So, yung daw pong tribo ay, yung role daw po nila is bantayan yung animal world na dapat daw po is hindi maging sanhi yung pagbabantay nila na masaktan yung mga animal sa community. And the last is a development to reflective morality has given us the knowledge that morality is something that we can try to understand, and the study of ethics belongs to the level of conscience. It is true that it is better in the most cases to observe moral customs that we do not understand if there be no reason for the transgressing them. So sabi daw po dito is, kailangan nating unawain at intindihin na ang pag-aaralan ng ethics ay part na po talaga ng conscience. So, this will end my report, and as I've said a while ago, na at the end of the discussions is meron po tayong sasagutan. So, number 1 question is, what does mortality mean? Number 2, what does W.S. Gilbert mean by this? That every boy and every girl that's born into the world alive is either a little liberal or else a little conservative. So number 3, what do you mean by the word conscience? And number 4, define custom. And the last question is, are human instinctively moral? Explain. Thank you. Ay, naku, mapunta. Ay, nakakainis na kailang ano na ako eh. Record na ako.